I was recently asked this question as to whether white people have more parasites and if that drives things like racism and violence and intolerance towards non-white people. And the answer to both of those questions is yes. One of the driving factors for this is the lack of melanin. Melanin is one of the most important aspects of the immune system. It's anti-parasitic, it's antioxidant, and it's also metal chelating, as well as it's a semiconductor for energy.
White people are 35 times more likely to get lice than black people. 0.3 to 0.5% of black school children get lice as opposed to 10% of white people. Don't give me that, oh, all have gray hair, some have bad hair.
According to the CDC, lice infestation with head lice is much less common amongst African Americans than any other race of people. According to the CDC, African Americans are less likely to get head lice infestations. You know where lice like to go? On animals. Lice like to be on animals. That's who the fuck lice like to be on.
And it seems like every time a major controversy starts, someone tries to make black people the target. Whether it's on social media, in public debates, or during breaking news, there are moments when blame spreads faster than facts before the full story is even known. Stereotypes and assumptions can quickly take over. In this case, many people believe the black community was once again being unfairly pulled into a conversation that had little to do with them. As more information became available, the discussion shifted from accusations to a much bigger question. Why does this keep
yes,
happening?
I have lice
Let's
in
take
my
a closer
hair,
look.
and I want to keep them because they are friends.
Fucking white people. Oh. I just can't today.
I manage 4 head lice clinics in the New York metropolitan area. Yesterday we had our biggest celebrity client. We have had other celebrities before, but never an Academy Award winner. But yesterday was the day. And the worst part about it is, because of HIPAA, I can't even tell you who it was. I want you to take this with you. Just know that even Academy Award winners, the biggest stars in the world, they are not immune to head lice. I hope that makes your day a little brighter. Because I know you're going to ask, no, I did not meet them. I was not there. And also my staff said the person could not have been any nicer.
I'm not ready to laugh about this yet, but one of my poor work colleagues found a giant nit on my scalp in my part line yesterday, and so now I'm de-knitting. But Lou assures me, she thinks that I found like one jumper from the kids. That happens like sometimes when like the main one like just hobbles over, but she can't see any others.
It's looking pretty
but
good.
Still, I had a knit on my head at some point, and I'm honestly never been more upset. This is my first adult experience and I'm not enjoying it.
Lice is going around my daughter's school right now, and as a family full of long-haired people, that is like a very spooky word. So we've been doing a lot of lice checks in this house, but it got me thinking about this time when my best friend and I got lice as adults traveling through Southeast Asia. We were in Thailand when we discovered it, and in order to like navigate Thailand, you have to spend a lot of time on like buses, trains, boats, so there was a lot of public transit happening. We were also staying in a lot of hostels, which you do in your early 20s, and I don't know where we got it, but we definitely both got lice. And we were sitting in this cafe eating breakfast, and I like go to scratch right here, and I pull a bug out of my hair, and my eyes just get like really wide. And my girlfriend, who I've known since I was 15, like knows me so well, she knew something was up. And I didn't want to like have her look in my hair for lice inside of a restaurant, like that's disgusting. So we step out onto the sidewalk, which I don't know if is much better, but we step out onto the sidewalk, and I'm like getting itchy just thinking about it. But I had her look in my hair, and sure enough, I'm just riddled with lice. And then I looked in her hair, and same thing, we both had lice. And we both had long hair, similarly to how my hair is now, maybe even longer, and so did she. And we did our best to navigate to like a pharmacy and explain to the woman in our like broken Thai and Google Translate what was going on. And the first thing she says is that we have to like cut our hair. She like motions to cut our hair. And as somebody who's already had short hair multiple times in my life, I didn't want to do that. That sounded awful to me. So I immediately was, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to find any other way I can to not do that. But my girlfriend, Kara, she's such a badass. She's always wanted to shave her head. And she used this opportunity to do that, which is, I could never. My head is not round enough to pull off a shaved head, but she had a beautifully round head, like Miles here, and she could definitely pull off a shaved head. So we gather the things to treat our lice. We go back to the hostel we're staying at. We were staying in a communal type hostel, and that is not the place to treat lice. So we tell the hostel owner, who is this English man from Manchester. He's gives boxer energy, had a buzzed head, and we knew since he had a buzzed head, he likely had buzzers, and he was so nice, and he let us borrow his clippers. We changed hostels because we needed our own bathroom. We needed our own situation to deal with our situation. And yeah, we just went to town on trying to get rid of our lice. But before we left our previous hostel, there was another guest there, this oversized biker dude from Louisiana. And I had explained that I did not want to cut my hair, that I was trying to salvage my hair. And he had a suggestion for me, and for some reason I just trusted this man. I know, Miles, it's crazy. I trusted him, but he said that I needed to cover my head with Vaseline and sleep with a bag on my head because it would suffocate the lice. And I don't know, there was just something about him. Looking back, I maybe should have questioned that. He was wearing leather pants and a leather vest in a very humid country, drinking first thing in the morning, but I don't know, I believed him. I did. So after I did all the shampoos and all the combs, I covered my scalp in Vaseline, just the biggest scoops, just covered it. Slept with a bag on my head, and we shaved Kara's head. I'll insert some pictures because it was so fun. Shaving your friend's head who you've known since you were 15 in another country, it really was so fun. But I will say this, do not ever do that. It ruined my hair, ruined it. My hair took about, I want to say 3 years to recover from the Vaseline incident. It looked perpetually wet for about 6 months. No matter how many times I washed it, my hair just looked like it was wet. It just looked like it was wet. And you guys want to know the kicker? After we finished traveling and I got home, I still had lice. I had to treat it when I got home. Sorry, I got a call. But yes, I had to treat my lice again, even though I had been traveling through multiple countries after that, still having lice. And that still keeps me up at night sometimes. Who did I pass my lice to? It's awful. But yes, the moral of the story, don't always take advice from every biker dude you meet, because it's not always sound advice. And I just changed his diaper too, so that's why he got a costume change. Don't always take everyone's advice.
I was recently asked this question as to whether white people have more parasites, and if that drives things like racism and violence and intolerance towards non-white people. And the answer to both of those questions is yes. One of the driving factors for this is the lack of melanin. Melanin is one of the most important aspects of the immune system. It's anti-parasitic, it's antioxidant, and it's also metal chelating, as well as it's a semiconductor for energy. It's the most fundamentally important molecule in all of biology. Without this natural barrier against parasites and the reduction of sun exposure, which further increases and cleanses the body of parasites, white people have developed extremely high parasite loads. And this goes all the way back to Roman Empire. You can take a look at their hygiene practices, medieval Europe, the Renaissance, and finally through colonization. So these two factors, a higher susceptibility to parasites as well as hundreds of years, generation after generation of cultivating high parasite loads, has caused white people to be naturally more parasitized. High parasite stress is found to do two things in the domain of psychosocial studies. It leads to hyperindividuality and hyperaggression. This is true for any social species of animal throughout the entire world. We'll use ants as an example. If an ant colony is infected with a tapeworm, the infected ants will subtly, because of the tapeworm, release a pheromone that conditions the entire colony to have that hyperindividuality and hyperaggression. It makes the ants lazy and sluggish. It also makes them extremely defensive. They'll start to attack their neighbors preemptively, fearing that there will be some kind of attack against them, so they lash out. There's a notable reduction in teamwork. They no longer serve the queen, but serve the interests of the infected few ants. And all of this is so that the infected ants have a stronger chance of survival, so that the tapeworm can complete its life cycle, which in this example, it wants to be eaten by a bird. So if we were to take a look at humans in the course of history, we take a look at white people from that perspective of biology, we're going to see them as an invasive species. And we're going to see white people as aggressively colonizing as well as hyper-individualistic. They lack teamwork, except the only time you'll really see strong teamwork is when they come to the defense of a guilty member who is being accused or found guilty of some kind of crime. White people will come into the defense of community only when there's a threat to their whiteness, to that supremacy or superiority. When white people commit a crime, they are protected, their identity is protected, and usually the narrative is spun so that they come out as a hero. But all you have to do is trace the tracks of history. During colonialization, the reason why sickness was so widespread in native nations was because the hygiene practices, the culture conditions, the microbial culture, and vice versa. Well, that had gone into such a high parasite load that the colonizers devastated the ecosystem of native microbiomes. Basically, their immune systems weren't prepared for the sheer amount of evolved parasites that white people had conditioned and lived with and become accustomed to. White people had been living in filth for hundreds of years and so became carriers of disease. But it does more than that. When we take a look at ants, and we can see that parasites influence pheromones, for humans, we don't use pheromones to communicate, but we use ideologies. And so the parasites, they influence the ideologies. The ideologies of white people is to see everyone as an enemy, to conquer, to propagate the parasites, and to suppress, oppress, and enslave others around them. And now the ideologies of the parasitized science of Western imperialism denies the usefulness of deworming. They say that the sun is bad. And this is only going to get worse as the sun's intensity hits Earth harder. White people are going to retreat from the sun more and more and continually to cultivate worse and worse microbiomes that are toxic to ecosystems and other humans. And you need to look no further than the atrocities committed by white people against indigenous populations, against slaves, and still to this day in foreign countries, and against immigrants, and really anyone who isn't white. In no way am I saying that white people are blameless. What I'm saying is that this is the way it is. This is part of the driving factor. This is part of the motivating force. White people inherently are more susceptible to parasites, and if we look at history, they have been cultivating more and more extreme toxicity and high parasite stress in their microbiomes. This destroys community, drives hyperindividualization, drives hyperaggression against non-parasitized members. In other words, it becomes white versus non-white people because it's the parasitized versus the non-parasitized. The burden of responsibility is on white people to change and to fight against the oppression that their system has given them the ample opportunities and access and privilege of. This is merely biologically, psychosocially, historically, ideologically, how things went, how they were going. White people created an entire system of racism because of the melanin content of someone's skin. White people are fundamentally more parasitized. That's just a fact of their biology. And until they take steps to overcome that, they're going to keep doing what white people have always been doing. You can take a look at the leaders of the regimes of white countries. They're transhumanists, pedophiles, warmongers, colonizers. Cultural practices condition the microbial culture, and white people's culture.
One reason this topic resonated with so many people is that it reflects a frustration many have felt for years. When a controversial event happens, Black people are sometimes blamed, stereotyped, or discussed as though an entire community is responsible for the actions of a few individuals, or even for events they had nothing to do with. That kind of broad generalization has a long history, and many people see it as both unfair and harmful. Every community is made up of individuals with different backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences. Judging millions of people based on isolated incidents ignores that reality. That's why many people pushed back against the narrative. They argued that before assigning blame, it's important to look at verified facts rather than assumptions. They also pointed out that Black Americans continue to make significant contributions to their communities and the country every day. As educators, entrepreneurs, healthcare workers, first responders, military service members, artists, scientists, and leaders. Supporting the Black community means refusing to accept stereotypes that erase those contributions or unfairly place blame on an entire group. But the conversation didn't stop with rejecting stereotypes. It also raised an important question about personal responsibility. One of the biggest lessons from moments like this is that responsibility belongs to individuals, not entire communities. When people rush to connect one person's actions to millions of others who share the same race, they replace evidence with assumptions. That approach doesn't help solve problems, it creates more division and makes meaningful conversations harder. Many people responded by reminding others that fairness requires consistency. If we believe people should be judged by their own actions, then that principle should apply to everyone regardless of race. And supporting the Black community means standing against misinformation, rejecting sweeping stereotypes, and recognizing the achievements, resilience, and everyday contributions of Black people that are too often overlooked when negative narratives dominate the conversation. In the end, this story became about more than one controversy. It became a reminder that truth deserves more attention than assumptions, that respect is stronger than prejudice, and that no community should be treated as a convenient target when the facts tell a more complete story. What do you think? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below.